Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, eating disorder therapist, here to support you in overcoming disordered eating and finding peace with food. So thank you so much for listening today. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a very popular podcast episode talking about themes I'm seeing in the therapy room. So I thought I would continue with this and mention some more themes. So, when you're struggling with an eating disorder, you probably feel really alone. You may feel abnormal, out of control, and lost in a preoccupation with food. It seems as if everyone else can just eat normally. You believe maybe there's something distinctly wrong with you. Maybe you consider that you're flawed or greedy. This could not be further from the truth. So let's dive into some more themes from the therapy room, and I hope that you will find these relatable and it will help you to feel less isolated and alone. Okay, so number one, loneliness and isolation. An eating disorder tends to shrink your world to tiny proportions. The focus on food and body amplifies daily whilst other life areas wither away. Now, in some ways, the eating disorder feels comforting and reliable. It's the one thing that is truly yours to manage. But it renders you increasingly isolated and lonely. You lose connections and it becomes your substitute friend. And if you have an eating disorder, you're probably an extraordinarily kind and sensitive soul. You're a listener, an empath, and likely adept at holding space for others. And maybe few people truly know the real you, and you may have lost touch with her yourself. And you might have understandable reasons for mistrust and fear of vulnerability. And perhaps you grew up in a home where your emotional needs weren't met. You may have felt loved by your family, but for many reasons, you didn't feel known and seen fully. So different ways in which you may have not had emotional needs met. Maybe other siblings or adults took up emotional space and energy. You became the good child to minimize the load on your family. Maybe your parents were extremely busy with work or their own emotional difficulties. Perhaps family members tried to fix or solve problems rather than listening to your personal take on things. Maybe your environment was critical and harsh, so it didn't feel safe to show up as yourself. And you experienced shame, judgment, and harsh words daily. Or a combination of all the above. As a child, adolescent and emerging adult, it's almost impossible feat to manage without consistent emotional support. And you will gravitate towards some kind of coping mechanism, albeit unconsciously, when you don't have that support in place. So prior to eating difficulties, you may have experienced some obsessive compulsive tendencies, maybe emotional eating or other forms of coping. But then the eating disorder becomes the safety and security, the glimmer of self-worth, the distraction and purpose from the deeper unprocessed pain. It attempts to fill the connection void, albeit with dysfunction. So building safe and trusted relationships is essential for well-being and optimal mental health. And you may need to seek relationships outside your family of origin or old friendship group if you're stuck in dynamics where you're not emotionally seen. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean cutting people off or abandoning old friends, although it may be very helpful to have some clear boundaries in place. So think about the qualities you would seek in a trusted and caring friend. And it's helpful to have reciprocal exchange of energy at least most of the time, not just one person doing all the listening. And qualities such as kindness, trust, encouragement, and acceptance are all things to seek. And avoidance of envy, competitiveness, meanness, or criticalness. And notice relationships where you feel good in your body. Now, these are relationships that feel fundamentally safe, and you can exhale into the acceptance. So it's where you don't really have to overthink it, where you can just be yourself, where you feel that you're accepted for who you are, and you can just be. That is what you want more of in your life. And what's really interesting is you will find the more you have relationships in your life where you feel truly seen and accepted, the ED will absolutely loosen its grip. Okay, number two, black and white thinking leading to less self-caring eating. So it's a common occurrence to hear my clients condemning their food choices with sledgehammer conviction. Breakfast and lunch are often the embodiment of the healthiest eating, following every gut microbiome rule to the letter. Certain carbs are frequently avoided, and the greens and vegetable count is high, and this eating is seen as holy, right, and pure. Later in the day, satisfaction and yum factors have not been gratified by the salad fest. So it's a desperate search for sugar from 4 p.m, rustling through the cupboard to find anything that could stifle the all-consuming sweet craving. And before you know it, you've swiftly devoured a packet of chocolate hobnobs in a dissociated haze. And the evening then morphs into a personal nightmare of bad eating as you feel that you've blown it and the floodgates are open. And you vow to start again tomorrow with the healthiest and purest of intentions. The cycle repeats. The critical good-bad thinking around food is often the problem rather than the sustenance itself. Allowing some bread, pasta or rice with the lunchtime green salad does wonders to increase the satiation and enjoyment factor, and you'll be far less likely to be rummaging through the cupboard later. And the paradox is striving for perfectionist standards with eating often makes your eating uncaring and sabotaging. Because the pure and clean standards are too high to maintain sustainably, no wonder you rebel with intensity. So if you resonate with this, work towards food neutrality with more balance in your meals. Carbs are not the evil incarnate. In moderation, they will allow satisfaction and less craving. Number 3, daily life is exploding with triggers. If your days are spent in a job that you vehemently dislike, with people who stress you, where you never stop for a breath, and clutter piles in the background, your well-being will be impacted. Of course it will. And you might not realize the level of noise on multiple levels that is infiltrating your psyche unconsciously. When you are the frog in the ever-rising water temperature, you might not even notice this has become your normal. Your environment deeply impacts your relationship with food. A life that is peppered with continuous anxiety and negative thoughts will create a human nervous system in fight and flight with cortisol surging through your body. It's incredibly disruptive for your food relationship, and you may end up not eating for hours on end and then devouring food in a mindless hangry state much later as the day catches up like a whirlwind. Now, you may experience a temporary alleviation from life stresses when on holiday or spending time with different people, and then you recognize the contrast with daily life. Now, it's challenging to overhaul your life when you're flying at full speed in one direction, even when it's sabotaging and destructive. Sadly, no one is going to protect your mental health or come to save you. You need to be the one to change direction or put a boundary in place or decide what works and what doesn't work for you. Be fierce with protecting your well-being. This is your life. You deserve to carve out time for your own peace amongst the chaos and demands. Little glimmers can bring profound differences. So spending more time with an uplifting friend and less time with someone who drains you, stepping away from your laptop at lunchtime to go for a 20-minute walk in nature, planning your meals ahead so you have food available and ready to keep blood sugar stable and to avoid overhunger, making time for the yoga class amongst childcare and work, and not scrolling on Fitspo for hours and feeling deflated and inadequate, and reading your favourite book and curling up on the sofa with a delicious cup of tea. And finally, 4, self-trust. On the recovery road, it's challenging to lean into self-trust and to develop your own inner wisdom. In an information-overloaded world, you're probably consuming recovery content daily, and you're seeking a multitude of approaches, but it leaves you confused and discombobulated about which advice to take on board. Sadly, recovery is not a step-by-step program with identical maps for each person. What is one human's meat is another one's poison. We are all unique. There's the danger of consuming such plethora of information which leaves you like a rabbit in the headlights, dazed and confused. Yes, it's helpful to be educated and knowledgeable. It's beneficial to find podcasts or YouTube that enlighten and encourage you. And social media can be an inspiring place too in moderation. However, you are on your own unique journey. No one is in your head with your distinctive set of experiences and understandings. Appreciate this and take time to reflect, embody, and integrate information. We're all guilty of overconsumption with little behavioral change. So do you resonate with any of these themes from the therapy room? If you do, I'd love for you to get in touch and share your thoughts. Thank you so much. So thank you so much for being here. If you're not following me already on Instagram, do seek me out, the Eating Disorder Therapist _. If you would like written articles of this podcast, do sign up to my Substack. You can sign up as a free subscriber and you'll get 2 articles weekly, and the audio is always available on the podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, I would be so grateful if you follow, rate and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.